is my Reddit post for the week that I decided to go over. This one was another interesting one. It was a good one. It was discussing essentially a teenager was trying to gain more understanding about whether or not life gets better as you get older. Especially for men, this could be a challenging thing, especially for young male teenagers transitioning through everything that goes on from where they're supposed to be at, where their role is in their own society amongst their peers, whether they're getting into athletics or if they're getting into academics or being part of any type of special groups or anything of that nature. It's a very challenging time for young male teenagers. So this individual is asking questions about whether or not life gets better. Do things get easier as you get older and as you grow? So some of the comments that were laid out for this young gentleman were great. It was great advice. So I wrote some of the points that I took from the comments that were posted for this individual, and they resonated a whole lot with me. So the first one that really stood out to me the most was discussing how sometimes even with you gain friends and you gain things as you move through life, whether that's new car, new house, friendships, you get married, you have pets, dogs, cats, your finances grow, you get better with understanding, how to budget and things of that nature. But even though all these good things can happen to you, also at the same time, there are things that happen that are unexpected. Family members pass away, friends pass away, you move away, friends move away, close bonds that you had with some coworkers, that may fade away. Relationships are broken and not healed. So it gets challenging and it gets difficult. The road gets harder because sometimes you'll find yourself in a financial spot that makes things difficult for you. You might be in a disagreement with your spouse, and you're finding it hard to reconnect again. You and your friend might have a falling out over some words or over some actions, and you guys are finding it very difficult to put that stuff to the side and continue to grow in your friendship. So the individual was essentially saying, if you want change, then you have to change. If you want things to get better, you have to get better in whatever that regard might be. Like I said, it could be in your finances, it could be in your marriage, it could be in your friendships, your bonds with other people, the information that you give to other people, your gifts that are for you to give to the world and not keep to yourself. Whatever that might be, you have to understand that in order to change, you have to be the change. You have to make a conscious decision every single day you wake up to be the change and to make sure that you're working on yourself to change, to be that better person. Another good point was somebody stated that you have to be hungry in order to want to change. And the way he stated it was essentially either you're going to get hungry or you're just going to look to be fed. So it's instead of going out and seeking ways to get better and to grow, whether it's financially, whether it's to grow spiritually, emotionally, whether it's to get better with your thinking, your thought processes, moving some of those negative thoughts, negative beliefs about yourself and others out the way. Either you're going to be hungry to do that, or you're just going to sit there and say, well, I just want somebody to feed me. But then what ends up happening is that you become self-reliant on other people to fill you, when realistically, inherently, you should be feeding from within yourself. All right. Another good one was you got to keep pushing forward. You shape and form your own destiny. And the honest truth is that the future is unknown, and it could be fair, and it could be cruel, and it could be difficult, and it could be hard to manage, It can be hard to juggle so many different things in this life, in this span of time that we're given on this earth. And it becomes harder and harder and harder the less you do not try to educate yourself. You have to educate yourself on how are the best processes to move forward, right? So the individual also stated, like, you have to get comfortable with knowing there's always going to be a storm at your door. Every day you wake up, you have to know there are going to be challenges that are going to be at your door. There are going to be things that you're going to have to jump over. There are going to be hurdles and hoops that you're going to have to go through. But even though you have to go through all those, you do not compromise who you are, and you do not compromise the morals and the values that you stand on. And then the other comment that stood out the most was they were explaining how it doesn't get easier, nor does it get any better. You just get wiser, and you just get smarter. You learn from your mistakes. You learn from others' mistakes. You get ahead of the game by reading up on information. And that's how you do better. That's how you get better, is you make mistakes and you learn from those mistakes, you gain experience, and you understand, hey, that's not the best way to do that. Maybe I should do it this way. Or, you know what, that way really did work, and I really did take the advice from this individual, so I'm gonna implement that the next time the situation comes up so that I'm ahead of the curve before I find myself in a situation that I don't wanna be in. This is all part of getting better. And also on that comment, they were explaining how you also learn better coping skills, better coping mechanisms. You learn how to identify your negative self-talk and the negative thinking patterns and those traps. And you learn how to navigate those better. So things that might have taken you 3 months to get over might take you 3 weeks to get over. And the things that might take you 3 weeks to get over might take you 3 days to get over. And that's not saying that this happens overnight or in a couple weeks or in a couple months. These are things that span over years, decades at a time. And with that, you have to know that it's always the journey. That's always what the pursuit is the journey. Your goal is the journey, right? So what did I take away from the post, the comments that were given? One thing, top of my list, was that pride and ego and envy are always crippling to your inner self. Those are always going to be the things that are going to stop you from shedding what you have, what your gift is to impart onto the world. Those things will keep you stagnant from moving forward. So the best way I like to explain this is with pride and ego. They're two separate entities, but they're working for the same team. All right. So your pride is what you put up in front of people to keep people back, away from you. All right. Your ego is what you use to keep your innermost self, the gift that you have, protected. That inner self is like your innermost child, that genuine, quintessential part of you that is the light that is supposed to shed among everybody around you. So your ego keeps that inner self suppressed. Your pride keeps everybody outside of it. And unfortunately, pride and ego have found a way to hardwire our brains to make us think that we need them to survive, right? So you get into an argument with your spouse, your girlfriend, friend, whoever it might be. You get into an argument with them, and they say some things that you may not like because it hurts your inner self. So the first thing that happens is your ego flares up and says, well, I'm not going to let them talk to me like that. I don't want to feel hurt. I don't want to feel disappointed. I don't want to feel disrespected. So it shuts that off and it says, I'm going to exert my pride now, and I'm going to push out certain emotions, aggression, anger, frustration. You're not going to talk to me like that out onto other people to back them away from us. These are self-defense mechanisms that we use to keep that innermost self safe. And in times it can help, but for the most part, it becomes harming and damaging to the relationships around us. and we are the ones who end up suffering for it. So even though these mechanisms are meant to protect ourselves and to protect that innermost essence of ourselves that we have to share, you have to remember that you have to check your pride and your ego at the door, even when you don't want to. And it's not saying that that you're going to be perfect at it, and it's not saying you're not going to mess this up, because you will. All the way until the day you die, you will mess this up. But like I said, it's about the journey and getting better with each mistake that you make, gaining the experience that you need to make each situation a little bit better than the last one. Another point that I took away with it is we choose not to change due to constant internal conflicts. We are constantly at odds with ourselves and our insecurities and how we think other people perceive us. So we're in a constant tug of war, back and forth all the time. Well, does this person like me? Does this person like me? Does this person think I'm cool? Does this person think that, my haircut doesn't look good? Or maybe I'm not tall enough, or maybe I'm not lean enough. We constantly get into these internal wars with ourselves. And quite honestly, nobody really cares. Yes, you might have some people who may say some things about you, but at the end of the day, they're not taking you back home, like in their brain. Like they're not going to fill their brain capacity up with you. And if you're around individuals who drain that part of you out of you, those are individuals you do not need to be around, because they're not helping you. They're not feeding you to grow. They're not allowing you to flourish, not allowing that inner self to come out and shine greatness amongst everybody else around you. Another thing that I took from it was don't deprive yourself the joys due to unknown circumstances. All right, you don't know what things will look like for you in the future. You just don't know. But there's one thing that is for certain, is that you can't have joy and you can't be anxious at the same time. The brain doesn't work that way. So either you're going to be grateful for the things that you have, or you're going to be anxious about the things that you don't have and the things that you can't get. And it's like having your foot on the gas and the brake at the same time and not releasing any of them. You're just spinning in place constantly. And it doesn't help you, and it doesn't help anybody else that you're trying to help. And you can't better yourself if you're in a constant state of anxiety. It just doesn't work that way. Anxiety is a great tool that we have, especially for survival purposes, to make sure that if something needs done, it's done immediately. But what ends up happening is that we get anxious over things that we can't control, just to find out that the things that we're trying to control are out of our grasp to control. And once you understand that, the storm that's at your door every day that you have to get up and that you have to battle just tends to dissipate. All right. So how do we move forward from this? Best thing to do is just don't care what other people think. Do not allow yourself to be robbed of freedom that you have due to caring about what other people think of you and what other people perceive of you. This is your life. These are your choices that you're making. And if you make some poor choices, you have to live with them. Don't blame anybody else. Don't complain to anybody else about it. If you choose to make certain decisions, you live with those consequences, whether they're positive or negative. And if you make some negative choices and you get some negative consequences, man up and be like, I did that, and I'm just gonna take my licks and I'm just gonna keep moving forward. Don't go cry, don't complain, don't become the victim and say, oh, because XYZ happened to me, this is what. Honestly, nobody cares. What matters the most is that you say, hey, look, I've been dealt a poor hand in some poor situations, but I can elevate above this and I can be better and I can do better. So do not frustrate yourself about caring about what other people think of you, because quite honestly, there's always going to be somebody who does not like you. It's inevitable. But take solace that at least you got some haters. That's cool, right? If you have some people who are hating on you, then I think you might be doing something right. All right. Next point that I took away from it was that life does get better. And life gets better due to the struggles that we go through, due to the hardships that we go through, due through the broken and fractured relationships. These all give us the opportunity and the ability to grow stronger and to grow better and to be more of who we're supposed to be, who we're meant to be. The energy that we're supposed to be giving out into the world, we become more of that when we embrace the struggle, and we have to embrace the hustle, and we have to be hungry to grow. That's the only way. If you had no other option to make, whether it is your finances better, to make your relationships better with your spouse, with your friends, spiritually growing closer to God, whatever you deem that you need to be hungry for and that you need to struggle for, you need to scratch and claw for, that's what makes you better. And that's what makes life better. That's the whole point of it, is that you're constantly on this cycle to pursue perfection, but knowing that perfection cannot be obtained. Once you can continue to battle through and get up every single day, knowing that you want to be perfect so bad, but perfection is not attainable, but you're still out there on the journey, you're on the right path for knowing that life is going to get better, and that things will get better, and that you will get better, and that you will get stronger, and that you will strengthen and then like everybody else who is around you. So I thank you guys for tuning into this video and listening to it. If you have any questions, any comments, anything of that nature, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll hit you guys back up later.